Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mind Your Buffalo podcast. This is your host Ravikant, aka the Buffalo Intellectual. I know I've not been doing a lot of these regular podcast, free podcast episodes because, of course, the last few months have been crazy. The book has come out, Meet the Savarnas. Now you can see all the book reviews come out. Recently, I think Frontline covered it. The Hindu has covered it. Hindustan Times did something, did a little bit of an interview of mine, and the Deccan Herald. I'm forgetting. It's been covered in mainstream media, and it's been selling out there. So the response has largely been positive, surprisingly, but I'm happy with that. Many of you like the book. You text me, you send me emails. I haven't been able to respond to all of them. Please forgive me if you've sent me some very personal, because these are usually very personal reflective notes, and I apologize because I've also been endlessly on the road. I did a live tour a few months ago. I was recently in the UK, and now I'm back, but I have the regular all-consuming job. As if you're a regular listener of the podcast, you kind of know. Just it's a demanding job. Let's just say that a little bit. So let me try and adjust the camera. Oops, the other way around. There we go. For the audio listeners, they must be wondering. I was trying to toy with the camera a little bit. Tells you all you need to know about the production quality of this this shit show. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of that, and of course, I try to give the paid subscribers regular episodes because, they're paying money. But as a result, now I recently started a Substack. So my teaching job, my writing promotional obligations, my live tour of the stand-up, my paid podcast, now a Substack, weekly Substack digest. I want to have some fun with that, because that's a format I really like writing. So the newsletter is available on Substack there, and then there is this live share. So there's a whole bunch of things on top of my regular job. So I apologize if this show kind of loses out, because I keep getting these texts. Okay, why is your podcast, you're only releasing the paid episode and not the regular ones? It's not by any idea of disservice. It's just there's a lot going on, and I do feel a little more responsible to the paid subscribers, so I make sure they get their value of money a little bit, because I do rely on the subscriptions a lot. So but those tend to be more topical, like today's episode could have very easily been a paid episode, because there's so much to unpack about it, and I'll get to that in a minute, this whole electoral voter fraud thing. And I want to kind of make this main show a little more interview based. I want to invite a bunch of guests. So maybe I've said this before, so you'll possibly start seeing that happening. All right, let's just get to the topic of the hour. Rahul Gandhi, the leader of the opposition, told us that he was going to drop a atom bomb. Okay, he said he's going to drop an atom bomb. And boy, did he. He kind of came out and has talked about possible election rigging through voter fraud. And this is very interesting because I have in the past done episodes on, on the voting pattern, on seats, and and I observe politics carefully. And one question I would get very often is EVM manipulation is happening, and they are fixing through EVM and all that. And my standard response to that has been that I don't think it is the EVM. Okay, I don't think EVMs are being rigged, and my answer to that has always been very straightforward. If in a country like India, you have to start rigging EVMs to skew towards a particular party, or you have to kind of mess with that. There are all these theories, EVM ka coding alag hai, the company which makes the electronic voter machine the EVM has connections to the BJP, or all these conspiracy theories कि वो ऐसे remotely hack हो रहा है, all the, like, I think what Rahul Gandhi's expose has done has kind of said we were looking in the wrong direction. Okay, it was not EVM. Like, so in that sense, like, unless tomorrow some new evidence comes where we see, oh, there was also EVM kind of fraud, then I stand corrected. But I will still stand by what I have said, that I don't think it was EVM, because the amount of variables you would have to take for doing something like rigging a machine and coding it differently. Like, elections in India are so closely watched and scrutinized, and political leaders usually have like all these sorts of connections within the machine, so they would have eventually figured out, or someone somewhere would have slipped up, and we've not seen it. Plus, it, like, people can, like, very, like, it's a technical thing, right? A machine rigging, right? So someone somewhere would have figured out what is the error, how are they doing it, could have at least proposed theory. We've heard none of that. We've just heard people say that the results don't make sense, and they've always just immediately said, oh, it is a EVM. What we are now discovering possibly is that it's not even the EVM. It is something even more basic than that. It is old school, voter fraud through voter list manipulation. It is in this kind of a format. It doesn't matter whether there is an EVM or whether there is a ballot box. It would still produce very similar kind of results if this is exactly what is happening. And what Rahul Gandhi has done, I'll talk about it in a bit, but it was very, very interesting. I think I saw this tweet online. This woman, Sarayu Pani, I follow her a lot on Twitter. Like, she makes a lot of sense. I think it was her. She tweeted something like, yeah, EVMs are also too high tech. It was a nice joke, because why the hell did we assume that the voter manipulation would be something high tech, like, machine ko remotely Bluetooth say this, that, Wi-Fi hacking? Like, why did you think it would be that? This is not a country which does innovation very well. It is old school grunt force multiplier effect. Like, that's effectively the Indian Savarna, like, model for domination or innovation. The electoral process is no different. Having said that, this is still early days. I don't know when you listen to this episode, but this is still early days in terms of the story developing. So we don't exactly know how it plays out. Like, maybe more facts will emerge, maybe things will get proven wrong. But just as a brief summary, what Rahul Gandhi has done, I think he, again, like I said, like, politicians have a very close understanding of ground realities. Okay, this is not just about Congress or BJP. Most mass parties, most national parties, or even dominant state parties have a very strong understanding of constituency. Okay, and this has always been the case. In India, elections have been happening for a really, really long time. I'm talking even before the digital era and all of that. People had a very strong sense of, like privately at least they knew, right? Public में जाके कुछ भी statement दे, privately they would know whether they are winning a seat, whether they are losing a seat, whether, like, tight hai, seat फंस गई है, like, it can go either ways. You broadly also understand which parts of the seat you have done well, which parts of the seat you've not done well. And even though, like, nowadays you have data for everything, but, like, even without that data, in most cases you have a broad sense. that if this is a Lok Sabha constituency or this is a Vidhan Sabha constituency, it has many parts, it has many like towns and villages, which towns, which villages, which tehsils and blocks you likely did well, with which voter segments, men, women, caste, religion, and like where you lacked. Like if you are fighting an election with any sense of seriousness and there is a party machinery behind you, you have put in crores of rupees, often your own money, right, in your election campaign, you've done mobilizing, you're getting daily feedback from every part of the constituency, all of those things are happening, so you have a fair sense of, if you're a successful politician or if you're from a fairly successful political party, तुमको पता चल जाएगा कि broadly हो क्या रहा है, right? And now, especially in the last 15 years, elections are very, very, data heavy, right? Like I often use a cricket analogy. Like till the 90s, Indian cricket team was very, inspiration, talent, mehnat based. I remember late 90s, Kapil Dev was brought in to be coach of India. And he was a very legendary pairing. Coach is Kapil Dev and I think captain was Sachin Tendulkar. And India was hammered badly. I think we went for a tour to Australia and we were hammered very badly because the sport had changed around them. Because Kapil Dev was like still coming in and saying that, mehnat se khelo and like, jaan laga do, it's for the country. It's a very old school way of doing it. Whereas the opposition and the other teams by the late 90s, early 2000s, they had started like studying the micro behaviors of players. They knew, what your stock ball was. They know that if you're a fast bowler, even if you bowl a 7 over spell, usually by the third over your speeds dip. So like they went very sports analytics based, and then Indian team obviously also eventually adopted it, and of course now we are probably the best, if like one of the best, if not the best sports analytics team, cricket team in the world. And there's a very good reason why we tend to do well even in situations where we are not doing well. Like I'm digressing on cricket, but I think something very similar happened with elections. I think elections was still fought very much on that old school Kapil Dev, like, हवा क्या है, क्षेत्र में, constituency में, what is the mahal, and things like that. I think in 2014 election, the one which Modi won, I think it was Nitish Kumar or somebody who had given the statement that you don't win elections on Twitter, because there was a very old school belief in ground realities and work. I think what has happened after 2014 and 2015, a lot of political parties have realized that social media, digital mobilization, data and analytics actually allows them to do groundwork more effectively. What I mean by that is that it's not that data has replaced groundwork. No, data has enabled grassroots outreach in a much better way. I remember reading this book. I was just like looking over to my bookshelf. It's called How to Win an Indian Election by Shivam Shankar Singh. Like it's like this pulp little edition. I think Penguin had produced many years ago. And this is like, I'm talking 2016, 17, 18 ke aspas hoga. Someone can look it up. Let me just like, while I'm talking, let me just look up when this book is, because I don't have a producer for the show. How to Win an Election. How to Win an Indian Election is the name of the book. Shivam Shankar Singh. This book came out, and this is riveting to 2019. I was right. So I think this book, I think, is a very interesting book because what he does in this book is he's actually worked inside the BJP political machinery, and he's like telling their method, and he's talking about the Tripura state election. And it's a very interesting one because Tripura was a CPM thing, and the chief minister was Manik Shah, Manik Shah, whatever. Manik Shah was like actually quite loved and beloved by his constituency. Now I'm just like worried, like, am I pronouncing his name right? Manik Saha, yep, Manik Saha, former chief minister of Tripura, and he was so BJP. If you remember, in that era, 2015, 16, 17, was still kind of like riding on this idea that Congress is corrupt, and Congress is corrupt, and he's like, no, wait, I got this wrong. Hold on. Former is the current. No, Manik Shah is the current chief minister. Oh God, who was the CPM chief minister? CPM chief minister Tripura. Manik Sarkar. There you go. You can't blame me for this, okay? Manik Sarkar. Manik Saha is the current CM of Tripura. He replaced, that loose cannon Biplab, who was the BJP's original chief minister of Tripura, replacing Manik Saha. Manik Sarkar. Manik Sarkar, Sarkar was the chief minister of the Communist Party of India, and he lost the election in 2018. I've just kind of made a mess of this whole discourse. What I was trying to talk about is that, and don't worry, I'm not going to edit any of this out, because this is how a live podcast works. Even though I'm like beaming it out. So most of my podcasts are, by the way, just one take. So good or bad, like I don't have any production crew, so this is how it plays out. But yeah, what I was saying is Manik Sarkar was from the CPIM, Communist Party of India, Marxist, and he was a chief minister of Tripura from 1998 to 2018, and BJP had never won in Tripura, had no presence in Tripura, and 2014 Modi had won, and the whole post-Modi wave narrative was Congress UPA is corrupt, and BJP was seen as a party of change which was not corrupt. But in Tripura they run into this problem because Manik Sarkar is fairly popular with the people. He himself leads a very humble life. He's a everyday man. He's like one of those old school communist guys. He's not amassed a lot of wealth. It's not like the West Bengal CPIM, like Tripura CPIM. He's like in the background. He's doing his work. He's reaching to the people. He's trying to do the best he can with the meager resources that his state has. See, that's the other problem with the northeastern India. The northeastern states, they don't really have, or none of the northeastern states, they don't really have an internal economy, right? And in these parts, they rely very, very heavily. They're almost dependent economically on New Delhi, right? Because the local economy is not worth it, is not able to sustain that kind of dependency. And in a lot of these places, there have been insurgency and separatist movements. So the cost of maintaining law and order and integration is way more than what the state capacity can generate. Plus, because the northeast region is locked inside India, it is sort of disconnected from this natural belt which comes from China all the way into Southeast Asia. So they're kind of like cut off from that natural trade route, and they're also kind of like separated from the mainland Indian trade route. So in that sense, like economically, it's a big puzzle, and I think India is trying very hard to solve it. Now we are trying to build a sea corridor which connects West Bengal to a port in Burma, from where they will connect it to the northeast, because we can't go through Bangladesh. It's pretty volatile. The historical overland route is not volatile. Now this is becoming a northeast thing. But anyways, my point is, northeast state local economies are very dependent on New Delhi because they don't have a lot of natural resources, and whatever mineral resources they have often get used up by the larger Indian nation. So, like, you don't see a lot of state level resources that these places have, and as a result, most of the political pattern in these states is the state governments follow the national government. So as long as historically Congress was in power in New Delhi, you would see a very strong Congress presence in northeast states, and a party like BJP, which had never been kind of relevant or even present in the northeast, after 2014 you see BJP become like win all across the northeast, because again, if you control New Delhi, you tend to end up having a very 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 big strategic advantage, and you can do things, because to win northeast, the kind of development, infrastructure, economic policies you need to act, those can't be made in the state, those have to be made in New Delhi because they will pay for it and all that. So to their credit, actually this is one of the low-key successes of the BJP regime, which for some strange reason BJP also doesn't talk about much. Also now after Manipur, it's completely, the entire discourse has become shifted, but BJP's actually done pretty well in the northeast, like in terms of from whatever I can understand, in terms of the focus, the resources, the infrastructural projects that they have invested in. It's a region they take much more seriously than India has historically. But I'm talking about the 2019 or 18, whatever, whenever it was, a Tripura election. It is a CPIM chief minister who's popular with the state. People like him. He's not a corrupt guy, and this guy, I told you this book, he's writing in this book. He himself is saying, like, our usual narrative that Congress is corrupt does not work in this election, because this guy, he's honest and people like him, right? And he has been the chief minister forever. BJP has no sort of presence here. So how do you win that election? And in that book, what this guy Shivam Shankar Singh is talking about is actually pretty fascinating, about how they give these workers these little like digital pads, and like every day they are coming out, the data is being mapped. Then of course the usual media narratives, and like the CPM in Tripura just is not ready for the kind of resources and the kind of big guns that BJP is able to bring upon them. And the unthinkable happens. Not only does Manik Sarkar lose, BJP, a party which had no presence in the state, sort of wins. So in many which ways, I think that was one of the last major era of, or last major example of this old school electoral reality with the new one. But I think by now in 2023, 2024, and now in 2025, by now all political parties to an extent have kind of understood this model. They have in some way, shape, form moved towards it. They all use all these election consultants. Back in 2015, this whole Prashant Kishore bubble was created, which is such a Savarna fantasy. Like some educated Bumman will come and he will have some technology karke he will hack the electoral system and become a kingmaker. But I think data analytics did complement, in a lot of cases, even seasoned old politicians in their 60s, 70s, 80s realized that, technology is not their enemy, but actually can in very meaningful ways help them keep track of grassroots politics, keep mobilizing things and stuff like that. And by now everybody has kind of come across, and we've seen this in we've seen West Bengal election, the Mamata campaign, they I think outdid the BJP in what used to be a stereotypical BJP campaign, Khala Hobe and all of that. But I think this is the reason why, in a lot of cases, there used to be this idea that how can EVM fraud be selective? Like, why are BJP winning some elections and why are they losing some elections, right? If you have the keys to the kingdom, right? So why are they using it selectively? Sorry for the audio listeners, I was trying to light a cigarette. So this used to be a common question, and many BJP people used to always use this. They were like, yeah, you claim voter fraud when you lose an election. You never claim it when you're actually winning an election. So clearly there is, like, you're just bad losers and all. And I think for a lot of neutral people, a lot of people sitting on the fence. By the way, you have to realize there are many people in India who vote for BJP, but they're not really like hardcore BJP supporters. They just feel that the opposition is not very credible. They broadly align with the caste Islamophobic agenda of BJP, but they're also suffering under the regime. They're not very happy with the regime, right? So, and we are seeing this, like, currently while we are talking, this whole ethanol petrol nonsense thing is playing out. Every day I'm seeing, like, so many people complain, tweet, like, people are just very realistically upset with this government in very common anti-incumbency measure. The tax regime is they're upset with, and I'm talking of elite, rich, urban situated people, right? Ethanol petrol, मतलब आप सोचो ना, इंडिया में how many people have personal vehicles, that this is like a core issue for them. I'm talking of elites who set the Savarna elites who set the agenda. Many of them are unhappy with the regime. They like, now with Operation Sindoor and I don't think there is a lot of, like, everybody feels like the government has fumbled a little bit, right? So you can sense that idea a little bit, that things are not as rock solid for this regime as they used to be, right? But they're not automatically switching over to the alternative, because there is, apart from Congress, there is no national alternative as such. And before Bharat Jodo Yatra, nobody really trusted Rahul Gandhi, right? So Bharat Jodo Yatra was actually very, very interesting, because before Bharat Jodo Yatra, Rahul Gandhi, even by people who had sympathies for the Congress, they used to see him like this out of touch elite dynast. After Bharat Jodo, there are people who are sort of BJP leaning. They also started coming out and saying that, okay, yeah, this guy is a serious politician. He walked across the country. So I think that did shift the narrative a little bit. And now if you think about it, the only national alternative to BJP is Congress. But Congress has not yet managed to get that national narrative, this one overarching narrative. It is not able to build the way Modi, was able to build in 2014. And part of the problem has been that, Rahul Gandhi, Congress, and in fact many people have been suspecting that some strange business has been happening with elections. My theory has been on this, like, some of it has to do with caste politics. Congress is trying to reinvent itself as a Bahujan political party. I don't know how that works out, truly speaking. I truly don't understand, because this is Gandhi's party, right? They're talking about Baba Saheb, but Rahul Gandhi is coming from the Nehru Gandhi family. Like, he's waving the constitution around, but he is literally the great grandson of Jawaharlal Nehru. So I don't know how that actually works out, how that adds up. But now it's very clear, for the last year and a half, for the last 2 years, the Congress is going to reinvent itself. the Congress has realized that this is tokenism will not work. They need to reinvent themselves as some sort of a Bahujan party. Um, I think what they're going to do is they're going after the OBC vote, because I've heard Rahul Gandhi say this. This is why the caste census becomes very important to them. They don't want to alienate the scheduled caste, but I think they have correctly guessed that the scheduled caste in India will, especially the Ambedkarite ideological core, they may abuse Congress, but they will instinctively vote for Congress if the Congress starts talking a little bit about social justice, right? And they can use that minimum base and do a massive OBC outreach. I think BJP's understood that as well, which is why they have announced the caste census. Because if Congress becomes starts getting access to OBC vote banks, especially the dominant OBC vote banks, in keeping with the scheduled caste and the minority Muslim votes, they'll overthrow the BJP. So I think the BJP is trying to hold on to OBC politics. They've been historically much better than Congress in giving positions of power to OBC leaders, so like chief ministers or important cabinet ministries or things like that. So they're doing their bit. So that's the major axis on which politics is shifting. But I think what Rahul Gandhi has kind of brought out now is very interesting. As a mass leader, as a ground leader coming from a national party, they kind of had a sense that some elections numbers are not adding up based on what their sense is, and he talks about it. He's like, I'm seeing it, like places where I've done rallies, we are getting very little votes and things like that. How does that add up? Like, how do 10,000, 20,000 people show up in one spot, and 2 weeks later an election happens and we get wiped out? So something's happening. And in a very interesting way, some years ago, there was a professor in Ashoka University. He was also like a Savarna, but like it was a very interesting premise he had. Like, he's an economics guy, I think, and he said that by laws of probability in closely contested elections, if I remember his paper correctly, in closely contested, any kind of close mathematical probability laws holding, like the results should be almost 50-50, like a coin toss, like it's like the probability of getting heads or tails is 50-50. So in closely contested elections over hundreds of seats, the dispersion pattern of victory and loss should align closely with 50-50. But what he saw was that in most of the closely contested seats, BJP ends up winning a lot more seats. So what he was saying was, this is not voter manipulation, but maybe there are many factors for it. Maybe the BJP was better organized, maybe they had like a better groundwork, maybe like each constituency is different, maybe local factors, just whatever. But like the IT cell got very aggressive unnecessarily over it, and they yelled at him. It was almost like a top-down push on the IT cell, कि इसको target करो. And it was not a target on Ashoka University, mind you, because the IT cell didn't really go after Ashoka after that. Although Ashoka has a lot of these left liberal Savarna, anti-BJP, anti-Modi professors, who don't ask them about anti-caste. Like, as far as anti-BJP, they're quite progressive. But the BJP IT cell has really not gone after these institutions in the way they did after this one particular professor. It's almost like they were very bothered by this accusation. And like, when I look back upon it, that's the only part of it that was a little strange to me. कि इतना क्यों तुम ओवर रिएक्ट कर रहे हो. बट देन I didn't think, very honestly, I didn't think much about it. I just assumed ki pata nahi yaar, IT cell, maybe these people are bored, maybe this week they didn't have anything, so they just attacked. Like, well, they also do that periodically, and maybe it was just that, but in hindsight it's very interesting. It's almost like they're sending a message like, don't snoop on this. And what Rahul Gandhi did, I think, after this elections, he was like, let's take 5, 6, in his own words, let's take 5, 6 constituencies, let's do a rigorous data analysis, let's check the votes. And then his team informs him that, look, the way they present data, it's not possible to even do 5 constituencies, forget 50 constituencies. So within one constituency, within one section of it, they go very painfully, they comb through the data. Now that's what he has come out and presented, like it is micro filtering into it. Now some of the things are prima facie very, very bizarre. Like, one of the things that Rahul Gandhi presented is that there are many voter addresses where the address is house number 0. Okay. He also presented like some examples in a lot of cases where there are 80 or whatever, 70, 80 people living who have given the same address, which is the same 1 BHK, right? So how can this be? This is clearly incorrect data. He's also talked about like things like people having multiple epic IDs, or like, have active voter IDs across regions, so they can technically multiply vote. He's also talked about examples of how the photos are often missing or really tiny where you can't like see it. Now all of these should not happen, but as an academic, as anybody who has done some amount of field work in India, you will immediately realize how this is not surprising, especially for something like the Election Commission, because we don't realize it. Like, a lot of citizens, to be honest, it's not their job to think so deeply about the electoral process. For us, an Election Commission exists whose job is to transparently conduct the election. One process of that is कि आप voter list बनाओ. Everybody, one man, one vote, one person, one vote. You figure out who that one person is, where he or she is living, and where do they vote, right? Now, in principle, there is no complication about this. In execution, it is incredibly fucking difficult to do this in a country of our size and dispersion, right? तो इलेक्शन कमीशन के लिए ये मैपिंग, वोटर मैपिंग, डेटा मैपिंग करने कौन चाह रहा है, राइट? That is the real key. Like, who is doing it? Like, are they outsourcing it to market research companies? I've never seen a job ad which says come work with Election Commission of India to verify voter lists. Or like, in a lot of cases, they're just getting government employees, or they're outsourcing the job. I don't know what they're actually doing, but somehow the person whose job it is to go on the field and map this and catch everybody and map it, address kya hai, photo kya hai. Now it is very, very highly possible that some of those people in a country like India, that when you meet someone, they don't have all their documents on them. You can meet someone, they don't have all the facts, they are not here. You go to the address, they are like, no, there's one more person, this weekend he's traveling, you come back 5 days from now he will be here. Like, it's very difficult. Like, what do you do in a lot of these cases, right? Aapko photo diya hai, photo is not, like, you can't catch it. I'm just thinking of it, like, I'm not defending the Election Commission, I'm just thinking of it from the point of view of that person, whose job it is. Like, maybe it's an office, whatever it is. I actually very honestly don't know the process. I'm just telling you, as an academic, as a researcher, data collection is extremely difficult in a country like India, especially when the data collection is going to be like every person has to be mapped, right? तो आपको बहुत सारे challenges आएंगे. So some of this things that the Congress, that Rahul Gandhi's team has picked up, right, could also be very much a part of that process. But here is the, like, for me, the most revealing thing has not been what Rahul Gandhi is saying. The most revealing thing has been Election Commission's response to it, right? Election Commission could have just come out and said, yeah, well, these things are regretted, but sometimes, our people go on the field, or we don't have data, this is a bad practice, thank you for, like, it's difficult, but ये होता है. This is not कि we are trying to screw elections, we are not trying to add voters, we are not trying to do that. That is not what the Election Commission has come out and said. Election Commission is not coming out and saying, oh, look, there are methodological challenges. Election Commission instead is trying to bully and threaten Congress, right? They immediately, like within hours, issued a thing saying कि oath में बोलो, case हो सकता है, फलाना तिमकाना. Right, and I think Congress and Rahul Gandhi anticipated it. It was a very interesting move that he went on stage alone, which is, I think, a very, like, daring and also a very powerful political move. He made himself the face of this thing. कि अब अगर केस भी होगा, and if this is proven wrong, right, I will take it on my personality. It's a big political risk. Right, he's not put anybody in between. He went on stage, and now he's the face of it, for good or for bad. If tomorrow this gets discredited, he will lose his political career. But if this is not discredited, and so far it hasn't been, he comes across like a very, very straight, upfront, direct, daring leader. And I think that is what we need to kind of think about. Like I said, it is the Election Commission's response that is making me feel very suspicious. Also, now you combine this with other, see, that's a job. Like, if you're an academic, if you're a person like me who looks at culture and discourse, I have often said this, my methodology is you read culture and discourse and you pick things which might seem unrelated, but you can maybe, if you connect the correct dots, you can see a pattern which reveals its own truth. Or maybe those things are just random and you're connecting at dots. But for me, when I see in hindsight, there are a lot of forensic clues here about discourse. Like I said, that Ashoka University professor overreaction is a very interesting one. कि आप लोग इतना क्यों aggressively, that guy had to leave the university, and as soon as that he left the university, as soon as that whole paper and that whole discourse got shoved down, the BJP IT cell, it's been years now, they kind of left Ashoka alone. They haven't really gone after that, right? Because when they were attacking it, they were saying Ashoka, oh, they are these people, they are anti-national. तो क्या एक academic के जाने से anti-national कम हो गया वहाँ पर? ऐसा तो नहीं हुआ. But इन्होंने focus हटा लिया. Like I said, this could be random, but maybe the idea was they don't have a problem with Ashoka. Sorry, I just like kind of knocked the mic. So if you hear like an audio spike, I'm sorry. Maybe they don't have a problem with Ashoka University or these private university or these liberal anti-Modi Savarna academics. They just had a problem with this particular topic. And as soon as this kind of got resolved, they kind of were like moved on. So that was suspicious. Or maybe, like I said, they were just bored that week. Also, it makes us think of CA and RC very differently. CA and RC was a very strange agenda that the BJP pushed in 2019-2020. Like 2019 Lok Sabha, BJP won a crushing majority. They came in all guns blazing. Immediately they went and dismantled Article 370 and took away statehood from Kashmir. The ripple effect of that Kashmir decision is still being felt. It is still ongoing. But that should not be surprising for you or for me. That is core BJP agenda. that has been always a core RSS, Hindu Mahasabha, BJP agenda कि Kashmir का जो whatever. So that in effect is not surprising. They also did CNRC, but they also did farm laws, which got like heavy protest. Eventually the farm laws were withdrawn, but farm laws भी आप थोड़ा सोच सकते हो कि like it is a core agenda because India, one of India, and this is by the way one of the reasons why we are also facing tariffs and shit like that, is because India is very clear that it is not going to let uh, other countries enter its agriculture and dairy market, right? That is one of the strongest whichever government does it in India, by the way, is political suicide for them forever, because that's the only thing which keeps India from becoming like one of these sub-Saharan or Mesoamerican countries which are or African countries which are totally 100% like dependent on foreign companies, become food importers, their own agrarian economy gets destroyed and things like that. The only thing saving us from that is this high tariff barrier and these restrictions that the Indian government has, and we basically protect our agricultural and farming industries. But in India, it is still not very corporatized, and so the idea was to try and transition some of these agrarian economy and into the hands of big Bania corporations, Bania-led corporations. I'm saying Bania-led corporations, but basically Savarna-led corporations, because beyond Savarna corporations, India doesn't have a lot of non-Savarna corporations. But basically, Indian companies who were going to eat up the kind of bargaining power and wealth of a lot of, or that was the anxiety of a lot of the farming entrepreneurs, which basically means in North India Jats, which is why no wonder they are the ones who came out very aggressively in the protest. But this is a policy which is again not surprising. It is something that the government wanted to do. It is potentially one of the major, because India's mining is already in the hands of these corporations. India's energy and all of those markets are already there. Defense, one of our bastions, has also been opened up or gradually being opened up to these players. Ambani, Adani, everybody is like kind of entering that space. So agriculture is one of the last bastions. So it makes sense that a Savarna regime would kind of pivot to that. Protests happened, they had to scale it back, whatever. My point is that is also understandable. CNRC was a little mysterious. Like, why are you doing? Why are you so aggressive on this policy? Like, fine. One element of it is like you're framing it as like Muslim, anti-Muslim, and people from outside and things of that nature. It got ensconced in this whole intruders have come in from outside, and it was very Hindutva coded. But if you think deeply, right, the NRC didn't really make a lot of sense. The NRC, the National Registry of Citizens, is fundamentally a voter mapping exercise, which, by the way, is what they were always saying, that a lot of these Bangladeshis have come in, which is a straw horse argument they keep using, and so many people have come in that voting patterns in entire constituencies are changing, etc. Now Assam has always had an issue with it. I'm not going to go into that, and it's very tricky. I feel Assam is for an outsider very difficult to understand, but from my outsider perspective, like this, it is pretty borderline xenophobic. Like they it's not even just Islamophobic. They if you're non-Assamese, you're kind of like seen as not part of the political process. So Assam's anti-outsider agitation has a 100-year history. It goes even before 1947. This has been their core and possibly the only most motivating political variable, and the Assamese identity, Assamese nationalism, even a separatist movement that sprung out of it is in many which ways coded back to that, right? So Assam is kind of different, but to take that and make it a national program kind of didn't make any sense. So that's the other thing. Like why are you kind of so aggressively pushing this policy? And then in 50 cities there was Shaheen Bagh, and like COVID kind of saved us. I always say this: COVID saved India because the government had put itself in a corner. It really could not be seen as backing down from this collective agitation by Muslim women. It would have killed BJP politically in the eyes of its core constituents. It would have killed Modi's legitimacy. So they couldn't back down, but they couldn't continue on the path. Like the only other way they could have escalated it is like fine, send police in and like let them arrest these old Muslim ladies, in which case you've just unleashed hell. Like you lose international credibility. You will be now seen as a monster, right? So they didn't want to do that, and they didn't want to back down. They were like, for 2-3 months, if you remember, like everything just kind of like hung in place. There was a Northeast Delhi massacre, the riots, whatever you want to call it. All of that was going on, and then suddenly COVID came and everything had to be like shut down, right? And they never went back to it. Like 2022, 2023, 2024 election year, 2025, like they can still go back to the NRC. They haven't gone back to it because primarily they understood they don't want to be in a situation again where 40 cities there are mass protests, and they don't want to be in that stage. So that's my analysis. I could be wrong, but now again you are seeing this Bihar special, this SIR, which in Bihar is going around like suddenly mapping voters. Now, why are you doing this at this point? Why is it this urgent? Why this push? Why this aggression? It is a policy which is very open to criticism. People are abusing the crap out of it. It puts a lot of stress and onus on the citizens. Also, it's not like there was a major question कि लाइक हाँ इसकी ज़रूरत है. सो जब आप इतना बड़ा पॉलिटिकल रिस्क यूर टेकिंग फॉर एन इशू जिसकी कोट एंड कोट इतनी ज़्यादा ज़रूरत नहीं है, that makes you think a little bit. Also, this idea that Bihari workers are in other cities or other states, so we are mapping voter list. with Delhi election के टाइम में तो नहीं किया आपने. Like, I say this often to my friends now. Delhi is a Bihari city in North India, right? There's so much Bihari and Eastern UP labor which has settled in especially parts of Northeast and not so much but Northwest Delhi, Southwest Delhi and all that. Like basically the outer peripheries. I think Indian Express did a great... could be wrong, Express only I think it was, did a great cover story on how the demographic of Delhi has changed, right? So members of parliament, Manoj Tiwari and all are going from these are Bihari politicians basically. Congress has also launched Kanhaiya Kumar, who's basically a Bihari politician, So in many which ways, the Delhi Vidhan Sabha election is heavily hinging upon Bihari voter. The Lok Sabha representative in multiple constituencies of Delhi has 7 constituencies. In at least 3 of them, Bihari labor or Bihari workers or Bihari citizens are very heavily, responsible. Chhat Puja is a political issue in Delhi, right? तो दिल्ली के इलेक्शन में तो आप नहीं सोच रहे कि कौन वर्कर है. Like these people are also going back. Like they must be spending 3-4 months a year back in Bihar. They must be spending 7-8 months in Delhi or vice versa. You're not going and checking in that. But in the Bihar election, you want to be very careful as to कौन आ रहा नहीं आ रहा. Again, इसका कोई political demand नहीं था. There was no organic consensus. Nobody came out and said, look, we really need to do this. there was no groundswell on it. This was not an opposition issue. This was not a government issue. तो आप क्यों कर रहे हो ये? Right? So there is a lot of question now. As of today, SIR again, like they are not responding well to Rahul Gandhi's revelations. So it is these kind of things which really kind of make one suspicious. So that's where I am at. Like we, I think, all looked in the wrong direction. Everybody was looking at EVMs, but it's not. Maybe there is an EVM manipulation also. Who knows? But till I see concrete evidence, my stand remains unchanged. I have not seen anything credible except mathematical projection and conspiracy theory. I have not seen anything about the EVM being manipulated. But this is not even EPM. This is like I said earlier, it is a even more basic form. वो voter list के level पे ही manipulate कर रहा है. अब again, and I will conclude with this, that voter list thing, all the kind of errors that Rahul Gandhi has talked about. See, addition is easy, deletion, voter list. Because Rahul Gandhi said this also, okay, like we are just talking about all the surplus voters that are added, right? That is easier. But there are voter deletion also. See, voter deletion बहुत मुश्किल है. मुश्किल मतलब it gets noticed very easily. If I am a voter, I go to the voting day on the booth and I find my name not there, I'm going to scream, I'm going to shout, and there will be representatives from all political parties there. It will very quickly become news, right? So voter deletion is not the way you want to go when you're trying to fix the lists, I would imagine, right? That's not a very good strategy. वोटर डिलीशन आप तब करोगे मतलब अगर किसी का डेटा नहीं है, फलाना नहीं है, बट वो भी हमारे प्रोसेसेस आर सो रिगरस दैट देयर इज अ जेनरस लैटिट्यूड गिवन, आप फिर भी कर सकते हो, राइट? तो बहुत मुश्किल है वो. मुझे नहीं लगता वोटर डिलीशन इज द एंगल. इट वुड बी, if there is manipulation and corruption, it would be through voter addition, which is what Rahul Gandhi is showing. But what he is showing could be genuine methodological issues for a country like India. But I think again I will summarize that it is the reaction of the Election Commission of India which kind of makes Rahul Gandhi sound more credible. कि आप इतना क्यों react कर रहे हो? आप उसको धमकी क्यों दे रहे हो? You know, like nobody will grudge you if you say, yeah, this happens sometimes that, we don't get registrations, we try to reject some of these, but, we can't track, monitor. Like, then the whole discussion becomes, why can't you track, monitor? You should be doing it. That's your job as Election Commission of India. It's a different discourse. Then it's a question about Election Commission competency, right? But here there is a question of Election Commission credibility, right? Competency is different. Competency is like, yeah, we should be having 0% of data error, but it is really difficult, and the things you've pointed out are some of the result of some of the practical challenges for a country like India. But that is data competency. You have made it about credibility by trying to fight back. And I think some people have pointed this out on social media and Twitter, that why is BJP defending the Election Commission? If there was a data competency issue, like Election Commission can't just handle the data, there's too many variables, too much entropy, so the voter addition, deletion जो भी हो रहा है would affect all political parties, including BJP, right? So all political parties should have come together and said, like, Election Commission, what the hell is happening? The fact that Election Commission is turning around and trying to threaten the Congress, and the fact that BJP people are coming out and defending the Election Commission, again, is another one of those signs. Again, this could be random, but is another one of those signs कि तुम लोग एक दूसरे को क्यों support कर रहे हो, right? Like, if there is an issue with Election Commission data, and let's say the BJP doesn't believe the Congress, right? They can just say, fine, like, I don't think there is an issue with it, but these guys have said it, and if there's a data issue, Election Commission, please, like, why don't you just like look into this? Why are they trying to defend the Election Commission unless there is some agreement? or discussion or some collusion. So it's actually a very very sad day because it kind of really upends electoral legitimacy in this country. And like I said, it's a story which is still opening, and it's come at a very very bad time for this government because they are losing credibility on all fronts. Donald Trump and the tariff wars have not played out well. I think, and I'll talk a little bit more about it on my Patreon episode. Trump's policies are a total giant rejection of the last 7 8 years of India's American foreign policy, and it must be shocking to be in New Delhi right now, part of the regime, and to face this. The way Trump has rejected India, the way this has happened, is honestly shocking. It means that the Indian entire foreign policy has to now pivot entirely, do a 360, lean closer towards Russia. I don't know what that will mean for a China policy. We don't know. But this whole idea for the last 15 years that, oh, America is scared of China and India will be America's useful tool, like counterbalance to China. No, the Americans have a counterbalance to China in Asia. It's called Japan. It's right there. The Americans bombed the crap out of the Japanese. The Japanese were their mortal enemies. Then the Americans built the Japanese up, and the first line of defense against China is Japan, right? So in many which ways, they don't need a second counterweight. Japanese are like hardcore allies and totally dependent on the Americans. So they have a counterbalance to China, which is Japan, right? Like it was, I think, too ambitious and naive of India to think like we would be the counterbalance because America is a democracy. We are also a democracy. Yeah, that it doesn't really work that way, and I think that's what the Modi government is finding out right now. They are also behind on this whole anti-incumbency thing, the ethanol, petrol. The Sindoor narrative has not played out well. Like they don't look like winners from any stretch of the imagination. Uh, Even BJP-leaning people are have questions, and the opposition has done a good job in the. They've asked questions. They're like, okay, who mediated? Like again, Trump has damaged Modi way more than any opposition leader in India can. Like from Sindoor to tariffs, he's totally knocked this guy's credibility, and now comes this electoral thing. So very interesting times. We'll see how this goes. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hey, you finished the whole episode. Well done. I can't believe you can tolerate my voice for so long. But in case you liked what you heard, you might consider also joining for the exclusive episode that I do for my paying subscribers, because that show gets into slightly edgier topics and I don't really want to put it out in the public domain. It's available on the Patreon as well as on YouTube through the join option. And in case you don't want to drop extra money, I completely understand. Please keep listening to my regular show. I'm grateful as ever. There's a buy me a coffee link in case you want to drop some love. Otherwise, just have a nice day. Stay being awesome. Bye bye.